1. Πάμε. Hello all and welcome to the AI Cloud and Modern Workplace Conference 2024. We are delighted to have you here and hope you enjoy the online event. We have a very exciting agenda for all these 3 days with speakers from different backgrounds and perspectives who will share their insights and experience on how AI and cloud computing is transforming the way we work and live. But before we dive into the sessions, we have in our last presentation for today, 2 very special guests. And I want to say a few things before I give them the stage. The first one, I met him a year ago, and I always get the same feedback for him, that he's an expert, he's an excellent professional, with many years of experience and contribution in the community. I can't understand why he didn't get all the awards of the world, because we are speaking for different awards, and I'm sure that he will do it as soon as possible. And he's a pioneer in the field of cloud computing, mastermind in Microsoft Azure, and also he's a low-code expert. He combines solution, he's a solution architect, and a senior solution architect. And I'm speaking for our first very special guest, Konstantinos Belis. Konstantine, welcome. It is a great honor for us to present you today. You honored us with your presence in our summit. And before I give you the stage and to start your presentation, I want to present the second person who is not only an excellent professional with very strong knowledge in cloud computing, and he's an MVP in the Microsoft Azure category. His contribution is valuable for the Greek community. He's a man who is always willing to help. I remember from the beginning of when I met him first time, I remember that he's a man who always willing, and I told last year that if I had the chance to be someone else in this life, I would choose to be like my good friend George Chrysovallidis Grammatikos, who is one of the best professional that I have ever met in my life. I think Konstantinos and George is the best team. I don't know why we didn't collaborate yet, but I'm sure that we will do it in the future. George and Konstantine, very strong welcome. George is also a co-organizer. Okay, I'm not alone. George is in the back end. I'm in the front end to presenting our very special guest. Konstantine and George, the stage is yours. Thank you, a big thank you for everything that you do for the community and for our conferences.
Hi everyone, thank you for welcoming us, Konstantinos, so the same name. I'm very happy to be here again. It's been almost a year. The journey is well, it seems like 10 years for me. Last time we made a presentation about the Power Platform, the low-code ecosystem, as we call it. Today we're gonna take a step further and present to you again out of hands-on experience how we integrate those things with third-party secure networks, even on premises, a very particular section of the industry, the police. So today our presentation is what an Azure expert would call cross-regional. So I'm actually based in the UK right now, where George is actually based in Greece. Thank you again, Konstantinos, for having me. I will pass on to George. I think most of the people here do know George. However, George, please introduce yourself so that we can move on.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Thanks. First of all, I want to thank Konstantinos Butskoulis, of course, for this warm welcome. I'm collaborating with him for several things in our day-by-day life. I want also to thank Konstantinos, because we are collaborating every day and at work. And yes, let me introduce myself. So my name is George Xovaladis Grammatikos. It's quite big. I'm from Thessaloniki. I'm working in the UK in Tiski Ltd, which now has become a Node 4 group company. I'm working there as an Azure architect, but I'm also working with Power Platform stuff, which I have started to love it a lot, and it works for anyone to start working and doing stuff with Power Platform ecosystem. I'm also recognized as an Azure MVP, and I am part of several Microsoft communities. What else? I'm also one of the moderators of the Microsoft Q&A portal, Microsoft Learn, and so on. There are many more other stuff that I'm doing. And last but not least, I love writing on my blog, cloudopzone.com. And yes, I'm passing over to Kos now to introduce also himself.
We sort of started the other way around, but anyway.
Oh, sorry, mate. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's fine. It's live event. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm Kostas Bellis, Konstantin Bellis. Kos, as people know me in the UK. I'm a senior Microsoft Azure solution architect. I'm more focused in the low-code ecosystem at the moment. Well, saying at the moment for the last 6 years. So pretty much from the beginning of our platform, when it was still dynamic forms. I am a fast-track recognized solution architect for the UK, for Power Apps, that is. And I also love blogging, so I do have my own blog, MVP Cloud Deck. It's .co.uk. And I have recently started my journey of following George's footsteps, basically, to go for the MVP role as well. I do find that to be very useful because in my day-to-day work, I want to test a number of things. So all the privileges that the MVP role is giving us, I can certainly use them. I must tell you that I actually use George's MVP temp at the moment to do most of my tests. So I've been away for so long. It's time to do my own try to acquire the MVP role as well. For today's presentation, I will flip back to our slides. We're going to have a short introduction about Power Platform. Most of the people now that are in that call, they know what the Power Platform is. However, we will keep going back to that slide in pretty much every presentation for every person that wants to know more. What we're going to present you today, unfortunately, we cannot have a live demo and show you data, but it is something that we actually used, me and George, to implement the integration of the whole of the United Kingdom within the pod. So we used front-facing Power App to give to a number of people the ability, officers, detectives, MI5, all very, very high-rank officers, that we give them the ability to be able to search for someone and identify someone to the centralized Interpol endpoint. So the way we did that is obviously we provided a very, very well architected front-end Power App, and we wrote loads of code in the low-code ecosystem, which is quite funny, and put everything in an APIM with security, with encryption, use all the nice toys of APIM, and a custom connector to talk to it, and the whole system talks only to on-prem policy secure networks. We consider this to be a breakthrough to combine low code with well, too much code and too many APIs, and also infrastructure. So CCNA, Cisco, VPN, certificates, routing tables, and I dare to admit that the people who did that, it was those two people sitting on that call. That is now live in the UK, and we made all that possible by using loads of contributions for the Microsoft community, and all the technology that this whole implementation is based upon is purely Microsoft. So George, if you're going to start the introduction with Power Platform, and then I will move on to more details.
Yeah, thanks, mate. So I will do a very quick introduction to Power Platform ecosystem for all the attendees that they hear for first time about Microsoft Power Platform. So Microsoft Power Platform is a suite of low-code tools that enable businesses to analyze data, automate processes, and create custom applications without extensive coding skills. The main components are Power BI, which is a business analytics tools that allow users to visualize and analyze data from various sources. The next one is Power Apps. It's a low-code tool that allows users to create custom business applications without requiring extensive coding skills like mine. The next one, the third one is Power Automate. This is a workflow automation tool that allows users to create automated workflows that integrates with various data sources and applications. It's similar to Logic Apps for all these professionals that hanging around with Logic Apps and Azure. And the last one is Power Virtual Agents. It's a no-code platform that allows users to create custom chatbots that can interact with customers or employees or whatever, providing them with information and assistance. Together, all these components make up the Power Platform, which enables, as already told, businesses to transform their data into actionable insights and streamable business processes. With Power Platform, any business can improve their efficiency, their productivity, and agility while reducing costs and enhancing customer experiences. So by saying that, I'm heading over to Kos.
Yeah, so that was a bit of Power Platform. That's a bit that I personally am very familiar with, and I have experience on implementing frontline applications, security applications, the offline code that is now generally available with the user profile in Power Apps. It was something that we started with Microsoft, being directly connected with the product group and sharing our ideas. However, we realized at some point that Power Platform is great and we can do a number of things, obviously by always using Dataverse as the source. We know as a fact that most of the people out there, they usually use Power Platform on top of SharePoint and then probably a number of other data sources. However, the full capability of a Canvas app is strictly combined with Dataverse. So having that said, we were trying to find ways to integrate with third-party software. Not only Microsoft CRMs, but other CRMs that are currently being used in police forces, security networks, even old legacy implementations. Obviously, there's one reply to that. I think most of us know the answer. It's APIs. So we started developing. I come from a computer science / developing background, so we started slowly developing APIs to see if we can convert them to custom connectors, and we did. However, especially in this country, in the UK, the security is a little bit more strict. So in the end, although we built everything and we're very happy, we needed to integrate with on-prem networks. And we also had another issue, implementing a number of custom connectors and APIs and code to the custom connectors. We ended up having something like that. So APIs to connect to a number of things, police devices, police laptops, and in every resource group we had an API doing something, connected to something with a different layer of security on top of it. And well, in other words, in the end of the day, we had something that we couldn't manage. So we needed to bring everything together and use a manager. So obviously, Microsoft gave us the APIM, which is what helped us organize, bring everything together, and basically connect to it. Obviously, an APIM is just a service where you put all your APIs in, but it does provide you with a number of capabilities: common security, common policies, data transformation policies, common certificates, so less money spent on certificates, and on top of all, infrastructure connectivity. So you can get a service and connect it to a virtual network. And what we're going to show you today, from that point onwards, connect that with VPN or VNet peering or you name it. You're in the infrastructure world on pretty much every network and utilize from that point onwards very, very, very secure connections that you can not really access unless you're on the data center itself and literally in front of a screen pressing some buttons, which is something that we haven't done for like, I don't know, 10 years now. I've been fully remote for almost 10 years. So we use the PIM as shown on the slide to allow organizations to make their data and services more accessible to external partners and internal developers. So we took something in the middle, the Azure APIM, and we applied policies, we applied transformation policies, request response rewrites, security on top of that, and we wrapped all our code in a single place, use the custom connector through what you will see soon, we'll see an application gateway, and gave access only to the range of the Power Platform. So in that way, we can actually leverage a Power App, a Canvas app, fully customized, fully a design that fully meet the needs of every business, but underneath use the power of well, a full stack developer. So we successfully combined both of them, and there is a simple answer to why we did this, because the ecosystem, the APIM, has a terrific ALM, and it can actually stay there if you don't have too much changes, but the front bit, the Power App, can leverage citizen developer. So we noticed that after doing that, loads of people we work with, they started building internal Power Platform teams, but isn't it that what we need to do as professionals? So give them the power to take that little thing from us and try to develop something on their own. So we gave them a front app that they can actually change, develop, even if that's making a red app looking, an orange app, you still give a simple citizen. He might be, in our case, a police officer, he might be an employee of an NHS, he might be anything. You give him the chance in his working environment to also come into our world, into the IT world, what we call citizen development. And I'm very proud that they actually helped towards that journey. And now we have a number of teams doing that across a number of businesses that we work every day. I cannot say the actual numbers. Trust me, the numbers of people doing that are really, really high at the moment. We cannot actually go down to that level of detail. I will pass back to George to describe a little bit about the components that we're going to use, because we just a little bit before we're going to deep dive into a really, really technical architecture.
Yeah, thanks, boss. So I'll give you a flavor of the Azure API management components. So starting with the API gateway, which is a critical component that acts as the entry point for API calls. This component manages authentication, authorization, rate limitations, and routing API calls to the relevant backend services. The next one is the security and access control. This component assures, as we all can understand, that the API security via encryption, authentication, authorization, and it also handles API keys, auth tokens, and some other security protocols. The dev portal, this is a web-based interface. If any one of us ever spinned up an API, an Azure APIM, it would see this interface, which it allows developers to find, explore, and use APIs. It generally includes also documentation, some code examples, and other tools that might be very helpful to developers that using the APIs. The next component is the analytics and monitoring. It provides details about the API usage, performance, and other significant data. This component aids companies is to understand how APIs are being used and identifying for more improvement. Scalability in this component, in a nutshell, it refers to the system's capacity to effectively handle growing API traffic, users, and the total workload. It refers to the capacity to adjust to changing level of demands by dynamically enhancing resources or spreading load on maintaining high performance and responsiveness. And last but not least, monetization is the ability to earn actually revenue by charging developers, businesses, or consumers for using API accessible through the APIM platform. And yeah, this is now, I will talk about the high level of architecture for Azure APM. So what we can see here, it's on the top, the developer portal. This portal, it's actually on the Azure portal. It provides the administrative dashboard where we can configure the API apps. We can use it to define or import any API models. We can manage users, gain insights, and other analytics informations. In the middle, there is the API gateway proxy, which is quite important. API gateway accepts and routes API calls to the backend. It forces usage quotas and rate limitations. It caches backend responses, and it logs also invoke metadata for more in-depth analysis. And the last one, which is the publisher portal, it functions actually, this part, it functions as a center for the API developers, for administrators, and the publishers to create, to publish, and evaluate and monitor APIs. And the next one. The next slide, mate.
Sorry.
Thanks. No problem at all, mate. This is a live event. It's all fine. The next thing that I will talk is about policies. Policies on Azure API management are a set of rules that are executed during the processing of API requests and responses in various ways. These policies enable us to customize, control, and secure the API. The image beside depicts one policy XML configuration that is divided into inbound, backend, outbound, and on error sections. If anyone of you that now watching this presentation, if you want to start and working with APIM and more specifically APIM policies, you can use some policy XML examples that are available for for download from Microsoft documentations. And yeah, by saying that, I can.
Okay, so gateway. We'll continue with the gateway. So by setting up the whole system, and obviously it didn't happen in one day or in one night, we had a lot of challenges with the API gateway. So the gateway is actually it acts as the gateway to the backend services by accepting API calls and routing them to the appropriate backends. So you can choose to configure it to cache responses to improve response latency and minimize the load on backend services. It can perform operations such as authentication, SSL termination, rate limiting. The SSL termination can be very tricky, especially on the way that I'm going to show you in a moment that we implemented APIM. Obviously, we can emit logs, metrics, traces for monitoring, reporting, and troubleshooting, which without that capability on a very complex network, you do end up having a lot of problems trying to trace your traffic. APIM security. In terms of security, you can manage access permissions to API. So by organizing your API consumers into groups, having them as users in Azure API management, apply permissions or authorize users and restrict access to APIs, so that you can avoid just using a simple subscription key. So usually when you first spin up an API, all of us, I mean, pretty much everybody who plays with APIM, we just put the subscription key in and that's it. And I'm pretty sure that everybody that has implemented APIM in production, in the end, he ended up just leaving the subscription key there and not implementing a security on top of it. That is not the best way to prevent API from malicious use. However, even with just the subscription key, we can put rate limits, whitelist IPs, a number of policies on top of it in order to make it more secure. We can also integrate with Azure AD or use SSL certificates. All of that are some ways of making APIM more secure. So we tried all that. We tried all the securities and all the APIM policies. We tried literally all of them. Well, when I say all of them, whatever we can find in the internet, whatever we know as developers, and whatever we could possibly implement. Unfortunately, for the purpose of our project and everything that we needed to do, and that was a contribution to the UK community. It wasn't really a payable project. That's why we can talk about it. It was a challenge that we chose to accept. None of it was good enough to pass the security in this country. So in any scenario that we implement an APIM and it had access to the internet, we were failing every time. They wouldn't pass us through, although everything was working, and they wouldn't provide us access to very secure APIs that we need to create to bring information about, high-rank criminals in the world. So we decided to do it in a very different way. We did use the APIM, but we used it on internal mode. I'm pretty sure that people who used APIM know exactly what that is. Well, that's here what we describe. I know there's a lot of documentation out there. However, I do challenge each one of you to try and implement an internal API and work with Power Apps to route your traffic from an app, from a mobile. On your hand, you hold your mobile here, send the packets, traffic it, get all the route all the traffic in your APIM, transform that traffic and pass it on through a data center, on-prem data center, through an internal network, and from that point on, use the dark web to move that traffic somewhere in the center of Europe so that we get information about all those criminals. So we used several APIs. We ALM them. For those that are not familiar with the term application lifecycle management. So we had a testing group of around 25 APIs, a pre-prod group of the same APIs, and a production of group of another set of those same APIs. The difference is that they all coexist in a single API, but the testing one can communicate through the internet because it's daily data. The pre-prod can only go through a secure network, literally through a cable. So you need from your Azure tenant to route your traffic in a bloody cable, as the English people say in that country. And production is the live thing of the pre-prod. So we built all of it on an internal subnet. We created a bigger VNet, and in a subnet of that VNet virtual network, we implemented our APIM. We created the services for the developer portal, for the data plane, for the management plane, route tables, route traffic for each one of them, network security groups to whitelist the actual ports that we needed. So when you implement that internally, there's no access. You can only go to the portal and just literally stare at it. There's nothing you can do. You cannot access from the internet. The developer portal doesn't work. There is zero access, which is what we wanted. So we needed to implement that and reverse engineer to give access to only the bits we needed. Obviously, for those that are a little bit more technical, we know that there is not enough information to make a judgment on whether you're going to use IPs or names, DNS names. So we also need to add a private DNS zone to create custom endpoints and route all that traffic to where we needed to go. And all that was fine. While doing that, I must really highlight that you cannot test anything. You literally, because all the endpoints you access are through a secure network, you cannot actually test if what you wrote works. So we thought that what we wrote will work. Like a reference, the policy on our APIM is about 2,000 lines. Just the policies, not the APIs. The policy for the APIs. So it's a unique policy. I know that out there there are a lot of blogs where you can get a token in a policy to make auth2 through a policy. So send a call to your API, auth2 against the third-party API, and get that token. But there is no information and there is nothing about refreshing that token. That is not an API. At some point, I will send that code because it's my code through the blog, through our blog that we have with George. So we did all that, and we needed to give access to the Power Platform because there's no access. So we implemented the application gateway. There's a number of ways to give access from the internet to the APIM. We chose the application gateway because we can combine it with an Azure firewall. So we closed everything, the Azure firewall, and we only let the branches of the Power Apps to be able to access the application gateway. Obviously, the application gateway you don't just spin it up and it works. You need a different subnet, the gateway subnet. You need listeners. So we needed one listener for every service of APIM, and we needed a couple of certificates for each one of them. So certificates for the custom names in APIM, certificates for the listeners, and all of them combined. We coded all of them. Apparently, where we built that thing, it was in a data center. So it was a hybrid data center, so Azure and on-prem. So we also had custom DNSs, which made our life a little bit more difficult. It wasn't the out-of-the-box Azure DNS. It was literally domain controllers acting as DNS zones on a load balancer. So there was a little bit of work there to do as well. What we came in the end is that amazing diagram. So a whole network. We manage to whitelist all the backend service of APIM, so key vaults, application insights, event hubs. So all our certificates, all our credentials for the policies that we use are in key vault. We do use application insights to trace all our calls. We do report back to an event hub so that we can create automations. All that network on my screen is peered to an internal network where our virtual machines that have access to the whole infrastructure. So all that work could only be done through virtual machines, and that one is VPN all the way to a data center, which is on a dark fiber on the Etherport endpoint. There is public access from the internet. That public access can only use the testing environment, and Power Apps can use the pre-prod production environment to make calls on the back end. Those calls are going through a custom connector where there are data transformation policies in the custom connector, and there is also a lot of customization and code included in that custom connector. That custom connector queries the APIM. The APIM transforms that request and queries the Etherport endpoint. We get the response back, and we transform that as well. And all that response has been fed back from the on-prem network. It sounds a long journey. By using the optimization tools on APIM, it takes 3 milliseconds. So literally you press the button and you have your data. We download fingerprints, images of wanted people, their travel document data from around the world. We have access to a very, very, very big package of information from that implementation. All that has been created. That is the start of it. I know it sounds like a big project, but that's actually just the start of it. What we tend to do is combine, that's what we call a federated sets. So we're going to combine the number of other sets on it, on local CRMs, dynamic CRM. That's why we also leverage underneath that Dataverse. So all our apps and all the communication is being logged, and all the users have been federating through Dataverse. So as far as I'm concerned, and everybody who wants to ask us or raise a question, this is the epitome of something that works on-prem with something that's fully on cloud, and it provides a day-to-day solution to, I think it's more than 20,000 offices today, but it's going to be a bigger number soon enough. So that is what we wanted to present you. I have some screenshots, but I couldn't make a demo of it because it's a live system and it's a secure system. You need special security clearances to work on it. But we did create a small replica, and we did of an internal APIM, and we can show you a few screenshots of how everything is getting. All the traffic is actually passing through the routing tables, and probably 5% of what we needed to do in order to get it working. Why internal mode? I think I've already described that. Manage APIs hosted in multiple geographic locations, work with hybrid cloud scenarios, keep APIs hosted in the private data center. We did all that. So basically, to go to the actual thing and how it worked, there is a step-by-step guide. You can find that in our blogs as well of implementing an internal APIM. Obviously, nothing about what we actually did. So before, I know that most of the people out there, you did try to spin up an APIM and then set it on internal mode. That doesn't work, it fails. You all know that now. So you first need to implement the infrastructure, the VNet, the NSC, the routing table, the private DNS, then the APIM, so that it communicates to all the isolated services, and then on top of it, application gateway, certificate, and listeners to access it from the outside world. While doing that, the only indication we have of if something worked is actually, well, your good hand and your good knowledge. So this is a screenshot of some of the NSC rules we had to do. There are some problems here with the official documentation. So for instance, 3443 is a port that you're instructed from all the official documentation to open it with a service tag. You will find out that that doesn't work. You need to set the protocols and the source and destination as any. Later on, when you actually try to do HTTPS calls from your custom connector, you find out that it's the same for 443. So those are a few of the things that you spin up APIM, it fails. You need to respin APIM. It takes about 35-40 minutes to spin it up. So every time it fails, you cannot really redeploy it. You have to respin it again. And little things like that, whitelisting the port the right way, makes you lose hours and hours. We have loads of information, so anyone who needs to some information, we can provide the way to do that. That's a routing table that you have to use. It combines service tags and that amazing 0.0.0.0/0 for everybody who is network agnostic and what's called, you know exactly what that means. If you don't have that in the end, you will have a nightmare with bypassing some of the services you need to access in the backend. Obviously, those are the service tags: Azure Active Directory, Event Hub, Azure Key Vault, API Management, Azure Monitor, SQL and storage. All of them need to be added on a routing table. Otherwise, you won't spin up your APIM internal mode successfully. That's a screenshot of a private DNS. Obviously, that's from the small implementation we try to implement for today. However, to demo that, we're already on 45 minutes. Imagine that the demo will start now because we just introduce you to the basic concept of what we did. So I take some screenshots instead of going through the all the implementation. So here you see that there's a custom gateway that has a custom DNS. I call it Secure APIM Gateway. I use the Azure out-of-the-box DNS name. There's a private DNS group underneath, and there is a self-signed certificate for each one of them. And that's only for the gateway. You need 3 more of those, and each one of them, when you spin them, you need to wait 30 minutes for it to come forward. In the end, if you do all that, that is what you get. So this is the network trace from the APIM on internal mode, which has no internet connectivity when you first set it up. If you follow everything that was described on that presentation, you get success on all the third-party services you need to use. So, for instance, if you want to build something secure, it makes sense to us that you want to use a keyboard. You don't want to go and hard code in a policy your client ID, secret ID, or your thumbprint certificate. You need them in a keyboard. So, unless you do all the routings and everything you need, you cannot use a keyboard because you cannot see the secrets, and so on and so forth for all the services. You cannot raise your call unless you have the event hub. If you cannot raise your call, you send the call, and nothing comes back, and you don't know where the error is. So and you cannot use Fiddler or something because you're on an isolated VNet. You don't have the VM to access it on the same subnet, unless you want to build the VM and access on the same subnet. But again, you need to whitelist all the subnet for the VM. So it's quite tricky to build all that. Well, my experience is that it's the most secure thing out there that you can build for such an implementation. It got approved for any public sector authority that I'm aware of in the UK. I'm pretty sure it will be approved in Greece if we want to do something like that. I think that security is a little bit more relaxed in Greece. However, if you really want to spend time with something that will keep you on your toes and bang your heads a few times, I will put the challenge on the table, try to combine low code with APIM on an infrastructure. So that's us. It's time for questions. If anybody has any, George. Sorry, I took over. George was supposed to present some of the slides, but I sort of, I don't know, went through all of them.
I would like to say something in the end. Before reaching this result that we have presented to you today, we apparently have read and applied all the Microsoft documentations or all other possible articles from several blogs. But trust us, this process took us a lot of working hours, nights, days,
months,
weekends, months. Yes. So,
indeed.
Yeah.
It does work. I promise you it works. I promise you it gets approved and green lights from pretty much every security authority, at least in the UK. And not only the UK, also in Europe because you have to access a Europe endpoint. So that's us, Arcos Bellis, George. Any questions? We're more than happy to answer them.
We are expecting if we have a question, but I have to recognize that in the beginning of the presentation, I was ready to steal your architecture. Now I'm not sure that I can do it. Now I'm sure that I can do it, but I was ready to steal it.
Good luck.
That's why we said it. We're pretty much sure that that's not a unique architecture and that's not a unique scenario. So everybody has his own challenges and he needs to architect his own way, find his own routes, his own certificates. We're pretty sure, and that's why we feel very comfortable presenting it, because it's not something that someone can steal. You actually have to build it. So it takes you on a journey on, I think, well, all across the Microsoft stack, because on top of it, there's Power BI, we use everything.
Networking,
so
routes.
This is a fragment of what we did. I come from an engineering background that I've changed in computer science, in developing, then in low code. So I needed to use every single drop of knowledge to come to that bit. And so did George. He's an Azure MVP. So we spent that thing, sharing screen thing is a very, very, very bad thing. I'm in UK, George in Thessaloniki. We live in the same room, the same Teams room. So it's yeah. Well,
You can imagine that.
Yeah.
This presentation approves what I said in my introduction, that you are not experts only, that you are an amazing team.
We don't believe experts exist. We believe that motivated people exist.
Yeah.
Experts in the Microsoft stack is something that, well, if someone considers himself as being an expert in the Microsoft stack, I would be happy to meet him.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to inform you that you have that you closing this day of a conference with a number of total attendees, 444 in all session, not just only in your session.
Yes, of course, man, of course.
I think that we are very happy that we have over 400, almost 500 attendees. That means that we have something to say to our audience, not only in Greece, but across the globe. And I was sure for the results because I know the speakers. I know each speaker, and I know that you are not only experts. I would like to keep this phrase because nowadays we have a phenomenon that everyone wants to use titles, to use big titles and not professionalism. That's why you see me to use all these. I know that it sounds big or great words, but I believe what I'm saying for both of you and for all the speakers, and that's why with George we are trying to keep a deep dive technical presentation, and from the speakers that they have something to share with our audience and to empower our audience to achieve more. George and Kos, I would like to a big thank for your amazing presentation. I hope to see you in person at first. Also, I hope to see you again in our conference in the next year, because we will keep it. It is the second year, and we will keep it with George.
Hopefully in person next year. Hopefully in person.
And let me tell you a secret, Konstantinos. This is the way to approach your team with George. That's why it's a joke.
George, yeah, it's a joke. It's a joke. I know. I'm always available with everything that says knowledge, experience with the Greek community. I'm very fan of. I'm one of the guys that I had to move. I didn't came this country because the weather is lovely. I came because the technical challenges are greater, and obviously the tech here is a little bit more advanced. I want to do Power Platform. I'm pretty sure in Greece we do some Power Platform, but we're not exactly there yet. So I'm one of the guys who wanted to invest on that, even if that meant that I had to relocate. However, I'm very happy that we have initiatives like this, Konstantinos. This is a great offer to our community, and the fact that we all come from different backgrounds. Well, I dare to say different. I am Greek, but I'm in the UK, so different countries. It's especially important, and actually it's a great effort for everyone. So I would like to also thank you for making me part of this, and I will keep coming back with George and presenting things that we believe are unique.
George?
What you want to listen for me, mate? I mean, thank you. I'm a co-organizer.
I want to close
here tomorrow as well.
I want to close the event.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for. I want to first of all thank Kos for joining me on this presentation. We did a lot of work, and he knows it very well. And yes, thank you, Konstantinos, for having this great idea for this event. You know who I am. I'm always love to doing stuff for community, not only for the Greek community. You know what other things I'm doing on Microsoft Learn platform and all these other things. Yeah. So thank you, and thank you and a big thanks for to all attendees that was our presentation today.
Thank you, George. I would like to thank all of attendees and all of speakers of the second day. I said that George will close, but
no, mate, no. This is your job.
Okay, I would like to thank you all. We are waiting all of you tomorrow. We start at 10 a.m. 10, I think 10 a.m. Okay, yes, 10 a.m. in the morning, in Greek time. And I hope you found interesting all these presentation. Personally, I found amazing, not just interesting. And I would like to thank you all. Have a nice night and a nice weekend that we have started tomorrow.